Hey there, and welcome to a deep dive on something that's, well, ancient.
Ancient, but maybe more relevant than ever.
Exactly, cosmology.
We're talking about how ancient cultures viewed the
And
cosmos.
how those views, might still have something to teach us today, even with all our modern science.
Right. It's like, do we really know everything about the universe?
Are we missing something?
Yeah,
And that's where our guide for this deep dive comes in, Wolfgang Smith.
Wolfgang Smith. Now, there was a thinker who really challenged the usual ways of looking at
He was
things,
a mathematician, a physicist.
and a philosopher. And he argued that those old ways of seeing the cosmos, the traditional cosmologies,
They're not just outdated myths.
yeah, he actually said they're surprisingly relevant,
Yeah.
especially in light of what we're learning from modern science.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I have to admit, when I hear stuff like the universe is a meaningful hierarchy and humans at the center of it all,
It does kind of clash with how we usually think about things these days.
it does. It feels almost backwards.
We'll flip the script for a second. What if instead of being like this cosmic accident in a giant, indifferent universe?
We're actually microcosms of the cosmos itself.
There you go. That's a core idea running through a lot of traditional cosmology.
So it's not just that we're in the universe.
It's that the universe is also, in a way, in us.
Whoa. That's a pretty wild thought.
It is, and Smith really digs into this with 4 central principles of traditional cosmology. First up, we got non-bifurcation.
Non-bifurcation. Catchy. What does that even mean?
Basically, it challenges the idea that the mind and matter, thinking and stuff,
Yeah.
are totally separate things.
Okay, so what if our minds actually influence reality?
In a way, yeah. Imagine a world where observing something, just the awareness of it.
Hold on, are we talking about quantum physics here?
Bingo! Smith actually points to quantum mechanics
Get out of here.
as an example of how modern science is starting to question that hard line between the observer and the observed.
That's wild. But if the universe isn't just split between mind and stuff, how did ancient cultures actually picture its structure?
Ah, good question. That's where Smith's second principle comes in, hierarchical structure. Picture the cosmos not as one big, same everywhere thing.
But as layers,
Layers,
Yeah.
with higher realms, more subtle levels of reality.
influencing the lower ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a far cry from just having impersonal laws of physics running everything.
I could see how that might be a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people today. We tend to think of progress as a straight line moving forward,
But this is more like,
a hierarchy.
you got it. But the big question is,
What does this hierarchy actually mean for us? How does it affect our lives?
exactly, what if there are things in the universe that we can't perceive with our senses?
Things we can't measure.
Right. What if there are forms, essences that shape the world?
But they're hidden from our normal way of looking at things.
It's like those optical illusions. You
All
think
right,
you're seeing one thing.
And then boom, your whole perspective shifts and you realize it's something totally different.
Exactly. And Smith argues that that shift in perspective, that's what we're missing. He says that modern science, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly powerful,
But it might be limited.
limited by its focus on what it can quantify, what it can measure,
It's like trying to understand a painting by analyzing the chemicals in the paint.
There you go. You might learn about the materials, but you're going to miss the artistry, the meaning, the heart of the thing.
It's like when we look at the night sky now. We see these stars, and we can analyze the light coming from them.
We know what they're made of, how far away they are.
Right. But what if there's more to them than that?
You're hitting on something Smith talks about. Remember that hierarchical structure we talked about?
Yeah, the layers of reality.
He suggests that applies to the stars themselves. Ancient cultures saw them as, well, more than just physical objects.
Like they were alive somehow,
Yeah.
or even conscious.
You got it. Smith calls it celestial corporeality. The idea that the stars have a different kind of existence,
Not so much material,
but closer to the spiritual realm. And the wild part is, he finds hints of this in modern physics.
wait, really? How does physics connect to ancient ideas about stars being like celestial beings?
It goes back to Einstein, relativity.
Okay, we're not going to get too technical here, are we?
No. But the key idea is time isn't absolute.
Right. It flows differently depending on...
On how fast you're moving, relative to other things.
I've heard that, but I'll be honest, it still messes with my head.
Yeah.
What's that got to do with the stars?
Well, think about it. Light from a distant star.
Yeah,
It travels at the speed of light, obviously.
right.
And at that speed, time essentially stands still.
So the starlight we see, it's like A glimpse into a timeless realm.
Exactly. It's a connection to something eternal. And that's how ancient cultures often viewed the stars, right?
Paternal. Unchanging.
Almost godlike beings looking down from the heavens.
It makes you wonder if they were onto something there. What else are we missing about the universe?
Right. And Smith's point isn't that we should throw out science, go back to living in caves.
But that our scientific worldview.
It might be incomplete.
Like there's more to the story.
Exactly. Maybe science and tradition.
They need each other.
They need to work together. And, Smith isn't the only one saying this. There are other thinkers, even scientists,
Who are starting to question things.
question the purely materialist view. It's like we've become so good at taking the world apart, analyzing every little piece.
That we've forgotten how to see the whole picture.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of Sophia Perennis comes in.
Okay, we've mentioned that term a few times now.
Mm-hmm.
What does Sophia Perennis actually look like? Like, how does it play out in the real world?
Think of it as a way of understanding, a knowing that goes beyond just facts and figures.
Okay.
It's about recognizing how everything's connected, the wisdom that's within nature itself.
It's like this, how a lot of indigenous cultures view the world.
There you go. It's about harmony, not dominance. Being part of the cosmos, not trying to control it.
So it's less about what we know up here.
And more
It's
about...
how we live.
Exactly. And Smith argues this Sophia Perennis, it's not just some abstract idea.
It's a living tradition.
It's a living tradition.
Right.
And we can tap into it. It can guide us, especially in today's world, with all its challenges.
This makes me think about the Big Bang. That's become such a central idea in modern cosmology. But I remember Smith had some pretty interesting things to say about that, right?
He did. And it's important to remember he wasn't approaching it from a place of let's disprove science.
Right.
He even acknowledged its symbolic power, especially for people who see it as aligning with, creation stories.
Right, like in religious texts?
Exactly. But he also argued clinging too tightly to the Big Bang as a literal scientific explanation, it can actually blind us.
Blind us to what?
To deeper truths.
Yeah.
About the universe and our place in it. It's like...
It's a compelling story, the Big Bang.
But maybe not the whole story.
Right. I mean, think about Genesis.
Yeah.
In the creation account there, it says the earth was created before the sun and stars.
Which is the opposite of the Big Bang timeline.
And then there's the whole question of the age of the universe.
Yeah.
Billions of years according to the Big Bang.
Versus thousands for some interpretations of Genesis.
Exactly. And I don't think Smith was trying to say one side's right, the other's wrong.
More like
Maybe we're stuck in the wrong way of thinking.
There you go. Maybe we need a more nuanced understanding of time itself.
So instead of arguing about how many years old the universe is, maybe we should be asking, what is time really?
Exactly. And how does our perception of time shape everything else we think we know?
Now you're getting to it.
That was Smith's whole point, to get us to look deeper. Question what we think we know for sure, consider other ways of seeing things, and maybe, just maybe, that can open us up to a more profound understanding of it all.
Through all this talk about different ways of seeing the universe, I keep coming back to this word Smith uses, forms. It's like he's saying there's this deeper blueprint to reality, something beyond just the physical stuff.
Absolutely. That's a key insight. Smith would say modern science, with all its analyzing, its breaking things down into smaller and smaller bits, it often misses this whole other dimension of reality.
It's like we're so focused on the ingredients, we forget there's a recipe.
Exactly. We might know what something's made of, but that doesn't tell us how it came to be or what it's truly about.
So how do we get at that deeper level? How do we learn to see the recipe, not just the ingredients?
That's where traditional cosmology comes in. It reminds us there might be more to things than meets the eye, more than we can measure with our fancy instruments.
You're saying there's a different way of seeing.
Think of it this way. You can analyze a piece of music, right? Break it down into sound waves, frequencies, amplitudes.
Yeah.
But does that really tell you what the music is getting at? The melody, the harmony, the way it makes you feel?
No way. You're missing the whole point.
Exactly. And I think that's what Smith is getting at. We've become so good at dissecting the world, we've forgotten how to experience it.
To really see it.
To feel it. And that's where this idea of Sophia Perennis comes in again.
Okay, so how do we tap into that? How do we get a taste of this Sophia Perennis?
$1,000,000 question, right? It's not just about reading books, although that can...
It's about direct experience.
It's about cultivating that capacity to see, really see, to open ourselves up to the mystery of it all. And, Smith has this beautiful image in the book.
What's that?
He compares the stars to jewels.
Jewels.
Jewels that glow in the presence of the light of a living, sapiential tradition.
Wow. That's pretty powerful.
It is, isn't it? It reminds us the cosmos isn't this cold, empty place. It's a realm of beauty and wonder just waiting to be rediscovered.
And the key to that rediscovery is rekindling that light of wisdom.
The Sophia Perennis. Exactly. And the amazing thing is that journey of rediscovery is open to all of us.
Not just scientists or philosophers.
Anyone who's ever looked up at the night sky and felt that sense of awe and wonder.
Because we're part of that universe?
We're made of stardust. We're not separate from it. And you know that realization, it can change everything.
It can change how we live?
How we treat each other, how
Yeah.
we see our place in the grand scheme of things.
This whole conversation has really given me a new perspective on things.
Yeah.
Like you said, we need both science and these older ways of knowing if we want to understand the universe and our place in it.
We need all the tools we can get.
Right. And maybe it's time we dusted off some of those ancient tools and saw what they can still teach us.
It's like looking at the stars with fresh eyes, seeing the wonder that's been there all along. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of ancient cosmology.